There is a lot of stuff in Fallout 76, just like there is a lot of stuff in every Fallout game. So much so that not everything makes the cut. Some content is remnants of earlier development, some is leftovers after a change in design direction, and some of it is simply content that has yet to be utilized. Cut content refers to content that is explicitly marked as cut and is not accessible in the live game, not to be confused with removed content or unused content that lacks the cut indication in the files. First up is Apparel and Armor. There is a unique fedora called the Tyrolean hat that is worn by a Foshnot Protectron during the Foshnot event and is not accessible in the game. The Presidential Power Suit is a blue business suit that provides a charisma bonus. The Presidential Power Armor was a set of T-60 power armor that bore a unique paint job. You would have been able to acquire this power armor, suit, and a presidential Gauss rifle by using a currency called Presidential Seals that you would get for successfully completing a cut event called Race for the Presidency. The Gauss rifle would later be implemented as a skin in a later season. Perhaps the armor and suit will as well. Next, there are several power armor paints that have been cut, most of which seem to be Fallout 4 holdovers. The Abraxo Cleaner paint for the T-51, the Brotherhood of Steel Standard and Sentinel paints for the T-60, the Institute paint for the X-01, the Railroad paint for the T-51, the Sugar Bombs paint for the T-51, a Vim and Vim Refresh paint for the T-51, as well as a winterized paint for the T-45, T-51, and T-60 armors. Now on to the cut weapons. The Auto Axe was put into the game files with the Wastelanders update, where it has stayed since. This weapon is a throwback to the Fallout 3 DLC The Pit. We will most likely receive this weapon as some sort of reward in the upcoming expedition to the Pit. This weapon features several mods, a burning, electric, and poison mod, as well as a turbo mod that reduces damage but increases attack speed. Although we received a green version of the Chinese assault rifle that bore yellow communist Chinese markings, we did not receive the plain version with wood furniture. This may be implemented as a skin at some point, although there is a very slim chance that the grip and barrel mods could be implemented as standard handmade mods, or implemented as its own standalone weapon. The Flashbang was a grenade that has been in the file since the Wastelanders update. It would have staggered enemies and blinded player characters. It doesn't do any damage and cannot be dropped or traded, much like floater grenades. It's unclear why this weapon was cut. Perhaps the developers thought that this weapon would not serve a useful role. The Incendiary Grenade is a weapon that has been featured in Fallout New Vegas, Brotherhood of Steel, and Tactics, and seems to have been in consideration for Fallout 76 as well, but was cut for some reason or another. The Junk Jet was a unique experimental weapon from Fallout 4 that would convert junk items into ammo. This may just be a Fallout 4 holdover, or perhaps it was cut due to an issue with how the Junk Jet ammo system worked, or how the item physics would interact with the world environment in Fallout 76's online setting. Another Fallout 4 weapon, the Laser Musket, is another weapon that has been in the game files since launch. It even had work done on it to convert it to work with the game's updated sound system. However, it cannot be obtained in the live game anymore. Bethesda removed any copies of the weapon that people had, but footage of the weapons being used is still available and online. The Quad Launcher seems to have been an early prototype for the Hellstorm launcher. It used the meshes and texture of the regular base game missile launcher. There seems to have been plans to implement a smoke grenade. It's unclear what the function would be with such a device. Fallout 76 doesn't have a good smoke system, and clearly this weapon would have not been a damage-dealing item, but it's interesting nonetheless. Perhaps this item would have broke aggro with enemies that were attacking you. The Soundmaker is a cut-throwable weapon from the Wastelanders update. It would have produced a loud noise, likely drawing aggro from nearby enemies, a function that Fallout 76 currently lacks and that would be nice to have, especially when doing boss fights. Now on to 8 items. Appalachia Champagne, Firecracker Nougat Heart, Mute Fruit Nougat Heart, Nougat Candy Assortment, and Tarberry Nougat Heart were all consumables that were part of a cut quest, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The nougat recipes have a meat item as their preview, likely as a placeholder. Each food would have provided a modest defense buff and increased player hit points, while Appalachia Champagne would have boosted the player rad resistance by 250 and reduced AP cost for sprinting by 10% and reduced fall speed by 3. There are various unused junk items in Fallout 76. They include bulk black titanium, coal, nuclear waste, and ultracite, a Chez VV alarm clock and typewriter, a flare shell, a Grey and Gould branded pocket watch, a Huff Warbler dish and fork, an Industro coffee pot, a large dinner plate and regular plate, a lit cigarette and stogie, a mischievous kobold which seems to be a special red dwarf statue that was part of a cut quest called A Mine of Her Own, a junk version of the mouth harp, a small plate and dinner plate. There are also several miscellaneous items that have been cut as well. The Grafton Monster Heart, the Mirelurk Queen Heart, the Mothman Heart, the Snallygaster Heart, and the Wendigo Heart. There was also an item called the Heart-Shaped Box. All of these items were part of the cut quest, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Sunny Settler Stew was a quest item that was part of a cut Foundation daily quest called Stewing Over Things. For some reason, the Super Mutant left thigh and upper arm remain unused, whereas other Super Mutant gore parts have been utilized. Recipes for the refreshing beverage and jet seem to be in the files, but are likely Fallout 4 holdovers. There are numerous cut plans from the game, most of which are mods for weapons like the laser musket and auto axe. But of particular note are plans for a dynamite spear mod and various mods for the paddle ball, including bladed, electrified, fire, Nuka-Cola, Nuka-Cola Quantum, and Nuka-Cola Cherry. There are numerous cut holotapes and notes in the game, but there are far too many and it would take too much time in this video to parse through them all. I may make a separate video detailing all of those unused notes at a later date. Now on to cut locations. Bromwell seems to have been a location that would have encompassed part of the ash heap, particularly the area around the tall mega mansions and the Garahan mining headquarters. A texture for the sign is in the files, and the region is mentioned in a terminal at the Landview Lighthouse Keeper's home. Level designer Steve Massey commented about Bromwell within the Bethesda Game Studios Discord server, stating that Bromwell's appearance in the game was essentially relegated to the Mega Mansions. He was unsure if the scope of Bromwell changed early on in development, leading to it being cut. He stated that it was unlikely for new structures within Bromwell to appear in future updates, as adding pre-war buildings does not make sense within the fiction of the game. The team generally prefers to add buildings created by new settlers or expand upon existing structures, not add pre-war locations. Vault 65 was a vault in the ash heap region of the map. The original purpose or experiment of the vault is still unknown. Though it is not possible to explore the vault, the game files reveal much about its internal layout. Within the vault cells appears to be a cave. The vault door stands vertically and is met with an extended catwalk. At the entrance are several radiation scanners. The vault is set up with 31 spawn points for feral ghouls and one glowing one. The vault is expansive with 3 elevators. Inside the vault, there are 2 default terminals without any entries, a chemistry station and a cooking station. The vault has a utility center with industrial machinery that appears throughout Appalachia. Sections in the vault include atrium, cafeteria, classroom, exit zone, overseer's office, reactor, research, residential, and storage. A vault trunk exists for the vault, but there is no way to acquire it. Vault 120 was a cut vault from Fallout 4 that would have been featured in an also cut quest called 20 Leagues Under the Sea. The vault was to be underwater in the Commonwealth, but for some reason the unused cells in that vault are found only in Fallout 76. It's clearly an engine holdover, but as to why these assets are in Fallout 76 at all, and not Fallout 4 where the quest would have taken place, is unclear to say the least. Several perks and legendary perks did not make it into the final game. Some were cut or changed through community feedback on the public test server, and some were presumably cut as part of the game's initial or early development. A perk called Antibiotic would have presumably had something to do with disease resistance. Fixer Upper would have presumably had something to do with repair or item conditions of weapon or armor or workshop items. Bandito would have increased non-automatic pistol range by 25%. The exotic weapons perks were meant to allow you to be able to craft certain exotic weapons and mods, such as the Black Powder Rifle, Broadsider, Railway Rifle, and Crossbow. Frayed Genes was a perk that would have improved the positive effects of mutations drastically while using a serum. Grease Monkey would have been a perk that reduced the cost of repairing workshop items. This perk would have stacked with Backwoodsman Issue 9. Habitual User only exists as an art asset, but it would seem to have something to do with chem usage and hydration, perhaps preventing your thirst bar from going down while using chems. I'm Cured was a perk that increased your chances to cure a disease between 25 and 100%. It's unclear what function this perk would have had, as such items as disease cures and antibiotics exist in the game. Lavish Lender would have increased the duration of perk card sharing from between 25 and 100%. This must have been meant for perk sharing that had a different function earlier in development. Locksmith would have allowed you to craft 3 different lock levels on your workshop and camp doors. Nerves of Steel only exists as an art asset, but appears to be related to pistol, movement speed, or perhaps VATS. Outlaw would have reduced the bounty timer from between 20 and 60%. Slumlord would have reduced the costs of workshop items by 10% for each workshop owned, with a maximum of 4 or 40%. Penetrator would have allowed you to hit enemies' limbs from behind cover with VATS, with reduced accuracy, and no penalty for accuracy at max rank. The percentage skew for each rank was 33, 66, and 100%. The Weird was a perk that would have provided your teammates from between 10 and 30 rad resistance while mutated. Armsbreaker, Overcharged Core, and Rewards Hound are cut legendary perks that did not make it onto the public test server, and we don't know what they would have done. Botany Buddy would have granted a buff to damage resistance and hit point regeneration upon harvesting a plant. It was an odd and niche perk, and based on player feedback, it was cut. Heavy Duty, Suited Up, and Thin Skinned were perks that allowed you to take up to 30% less ranged damage when wearing a full suit of heavy, medium, or light armor, respectively. These were replaced with elemental damage-focused perks. Nuclear Proliferator was a perk that would generate a unique Nuka-Cola grenade over time in your inventory with a maximum of up to 5. Since grenades suck in Fallout 76 and no one really wanted this perk, it was cut. There are also cut versions of a large number of perks, especially those that were present in Fallout 4 that feature higher ranks, such as 4 and 5-star variants of perks that can only have 3 or 4 stars in the live game. For some reason, the Drain Corpse note from the Harbor Grand Hotel from the Fallout 4 DLC, Far Harbor, is in the game files. Perhaps as a debug item for testing that, or Far Harbor 2 is secretly coming, I guess. The Thirst Zapper is in the files, but it is not implemented into the game, nor is the taped bottle that is used for the reloading animation. This weapon would have featured Nuka-Cola, Nuka-Cola Quantum, and Nuka-Cola Cherry mods that caused small explosions. It could have been implemented as a rare reward from one of the quests or events that take place in one of the theme parks in Appalachia. Lastly, Peacetime Radio was a cut radio station that was shown in pre-release footage for Fallout 76. The only 2 remaining mentions of this radio station that are in the files are a quest node and a keyword function. It seems to have had a similar function to the classical radio station. There is much cut content in Fallout 76, and it sheds light into the development process that the game went through, as well as its continued support. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing.